So we are the volunteer event sign-up group, and we talked earlier about what the functionality is, but and we'll get into that a little bit just shortly. So we want to go through quickly the way we developed this. Here's our problem statement on the RHoK site, and we filled that all out, and then we also created our own solution. You want to click on the solution, or are we already on that? So we got a solution out there. You guys are welcome to read up on all that. The next tab is Pivotal Tracker. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but Pivotal Tracker is where we create tasks or what do we call them? Stories that we have to accomplish. And now we still got plenty to accomplish, but we got a lot accomplished, and enough said about that. We've published this to a GitHub repository, so all the source code is out there, open source, available for people to look at. And we deployed it to RHoK, and it's actually running live on the internet on a RHoK server, which is this right here. Now, for our own reasons, we're going to actually demo this on a local server because we have a little more control over the capability of it. So the project, we decided to call it I Can Do That, Sign Me Up. It's, the problem statement came to us from a volunteer at our park who said, you know, I don't even know what's available that I might sign up to volunteer. I'd volunteer more if I knew what I could maybe go out there and do. It started with that. The volunteer coordinator said, not only that, but I'm always having to call people and talk to people and exchange email, and it's just a nightmare for me keeping it all straight, and it's a lot of work. And so she came to me as kind of the technology volunteer for the park, said, hey, is there a solution to this? We looked around at some of the solutions, not too hard, but I got with the Atlanta Ruby user group, and specifically the Emerald City study group, and we decided to take it on as a project related to the Random Hacks of Kindness. So this is basically, there's a login screen, and we're already logged in, and that's not too big of a deal, but we start out with this basic screen, and we haven't practiced this a ton, but we start with this basic calendar. You want to scroll up a little bit, and yeah, we got a little bit of layout issues there. We probably don't need all that white space in there, but so there's all these events over the course of the month, and we're going to click on one of those and take a look and see there's a description and the time and whatnot, and we say, yeah, I think I can do that, sign me up. So you click on that button there to get signed up for it, and you see now it has changed the state of that to yellow, saying I've offered to sign up for that, but we really need a good handshake with the park that everybody agrees that that is a workable thing. So somebody at the park has messaged that there's a new offer to sign up for some event, and so the park is going to come along and accept that offer. They might decline it for some reasons that we don't go into, but so here we are clicking around, and we're sort of faking some data here to make it like the park has acknowledged the accepted that. Yep. Some of this I haven't even seen myself.
Yeah, let me just...
This is all backdoor stuff. Changing the state. There we go. And then when we come back and visit our page, it's going to change. And so now if we come back and look at it, we can see that the park has accepted our offer to volunteer. But we need to also let the park know that we're still on board with that and actually turn that offer into a commitment. And so we're going to do that. We click on a link, takes us to the website, and we confirm that. And at that point, with nobody at the park spending hardly any time at all on this, we've got a volunteer that we vetted, committed now to fill that slot. And so it's going to go a lot more smoothly for the park, and we're going to get more volunteers doing more volunteering because it's easier for them to see what's available and to jump in on the slots. And I think they'll actually create more events and more volunteer opportunities because of that. We did it in Ruby on Rails, generally from scratch, like you do with the Rails application, but the calendar app came in as a gem, and there's some other gems that we use and whatnot. So that's the way Ruby works, is you take a lot of work that somebody else has done and you blend it in together. We think it has a lot of potential going forward. First of all, the Emerald City Programming Group has agreed to continue work with this through the summer as a study group project. And we feel like by the end of the summer, this thing is totally in use by the national park that I work with. What does that mean?
One park.
one park. I thought you meant I only had one more minute.
No.
I have 5 more minutes, okay. So we think by the end of the summer, and maybe sooner, we have this thing completely polished up and actually in use by the park. It's currently deployed on RHoK. I believe that they will host this open source project for free. It's very minimalist. It was very little server time required. I think it's a good solution. Going forward, well, we also have a team at the park ready to actually use this. The user asks for it. It's a problem. We solve it. They are ready to use it, and I'm kind of the link between those things. Going forward, we want to make it so we can skin this thing, and maybe all of the national parks are using the same server. Maybe even unrelated organizations are using the same server, or however that goes. But I think it's a lot more utility that's available to a lot more organizations than just this one. But we'll get this one up and running, then we'll be able to show it to people, get some interest, and I think we can take it somewhere. So I'm CB, this is Alan, this is Al. We also got support from our artist Daniel, and we got support from some design support from Ed, we call him. So Daniel should maybe call Delta Tango Mike.
Yes, right.
And Ed Lahaz maybe. So that's our group. And I want to thank the park, Corinne Finner, the interpretive park ranger that presented the problem in the first place to us. So I'm ready for questions at this point. We want to vet the volunteers that are built into the system that have logins, and we want to vet each of their signups to make sure that it's appropriate for them. So that vetting process does a lot to increase the stability of the volunteers.
And the vetting is outside of the app, so
It's done by
when
humans.
you log into this app, it will be against some known list of users, not creating a brand new user like we might do in a lot of apps where you're just putting your name in the database. And we're only collecting 2 pieces of information, basically, your name and the email, and then you create a password for this system. So there's a lot less privacy issues we're trying to avoid, because all that particular data for the user is in this other system where they were being vetted.
Okay, enough said.
I just wanted to say, I guess what I'm thinking of is, you have a transaction that you're opening here. It's completed when the person shows up, right? So perhaps you could build that in to the system saying the person actually came, and then organizations could look up users and how often they show up. For instance, I'm thinking of OpenTable. They have a no-show policy. If you don't show up 4 times in a year or something, you get cut off.
I don't think that's really, with my knowledge of the volunteering process, at least at our park, we know these people.
Okay.
They're not going to get in the system unless we know who they are. And if they don't show up, we'll determine that pretty quickly.
That's
We do
pretty
have a
easy
cancellation
to do.
capability.
We do have a capability for them to to undo their commitment. So we could add that to the state machine.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's another-
Did you have a question back here?
Oh, yes, sir. Maybe you addressed this previous, for subscriptions to your database, or who has access to see what volunteers are available?
That's a great question, because it's one of the things that we felt like would prevent this from being available using another solution. If 3 people are needed for this, we don't want one volunteer to know who else has already volunteered for it, because that is just too much openness for this situation. If somebody were stalking or whatnot. So, if you want to volunteer, but you don't get information about that. Now, behind the scenes, the staff at the park will know exactly what's going on. So some of these can't really tell. There's other states these have, like they'll go a little bit red if they're totally booked up with volunteers and so forth. Okay, so these guys can ask questions. Don't cut us off yet.
Go ahead. What other forms have you built beside this one? Can you show me?
So, well, we didn't work too much on those. Actually, this is
The login
most of the
screen?
site.
Right.
You click, you accept, boom, and
Login
this is
screen?
really the limited. But there's a login screen, which we're not too proud of right now.
Should I show
Because
it?
it's just sort of stub. Go ahead and click on it. So this is for stub reasons. We don't have to type all the stuff. We've created up some
But we have
demo
a sign-up
users,
process as well.
testing users. And then if you click on one of the events, you get to see the description of the event and so forth, and we're not too proud of that one either. Mostly we're proud of this awesome graphic that Daniel did for us. And other than that, it doesn't look that great.
Great.
Okay, and one more question.
How much do you envision the nonprofit or the group that would be, doing the cleanup, putting the specific events out there? And to what extent might it be possible for people who love that particular nonprofit to be posing opportunities? And the reason I mention this is I suspect that there are a lot of nonprofits that imagine that their volunteers are available on certain kinds of days, at certain times of day, and it would probably be really interesting for them to learn that their volunteer base would be more than happy to turn out, but they just can't turn out at the times that the staff thinks they should be turning out.
So I'm not sure exactly what I just heard there, but let me.
What I'm asking is, to what extent could I, just as a volunteer, say, hey, I'd really like to, sort of like Meetup, I'd really like to go and clear a trail on a Wednesday at 7:30 in the morning.
Right.
And propose that to the organization.
Right.
And then
That's
sort of
all
see-
outside the scope.
Okay.
And that stuff happens.
Okay.
All that happens. This is not a solution to that problem. But there was something else you brought up, which is that we want to make a poke feature. It's on our list in Pivotal, to allow a ranger or a person at the hosting organization to promote to volunteers, hey, you know what, we sure need somebody this Saturday. And it'd be very easy for them to promote that with a link back to the website and the ability for those people to say, oh yeah, boom, I'm signed up for it. All right, well, that's about it for us. I want to say one last thing, which is I'm not here for the prizes, I'm here for the project. So I don't know about these guys, but I really appreciate them working on it. I think we've got a package and a plan to go forward and make something real. Okay?